Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the UCL Training Center for another episode of Broncos Now. Team reporter and host Sydney Jones here. And coming up on today's episode, we'll hear from head coach Nathaniel Hackett as he reflects on Sunday's loss versus the Chiefs. Plus, I'll have an injury update, and Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla joins the show for a game recap. All that and more coming up. The Broncos put up a good fight on Sunday versus the Kansas City Chiefs, but ultimately fell 34-28 and now sit at 3-10. Russell Wilson exited the game on Sunday with a concussion in the fourth quarter, and head coach Nathaniel Hackett updated us on his status today.
Russell is in the concussion protocol, and we're going to do everything the way that the medical doctors say, the independent doctors. We're going to do every single thing. His safety is by far the number one most important thing. And we'll continually talk to him, to everybody else about that, and make sure we do the right thing. He felt great today when we saw him. He looked great, but we want to be sure that we do everything the right way.
Coach Hackett was impressed with the offense's performance on Sunday versus the Chiefs, specifically Russell Wilson's ability to use his feet.
I'll tell you, it's exciting. It's exciting when he takes off. I mean, the crowd stands up, and everybody, nobody knows what's going to happen. He can get an explosive runs continuously, and I think that's what was really exciting about a lot of the stuff that happened with the offense. One of the plays, I don't know if you all remember, but it was a 3rd and 1, and we were moving down the field. That was actually his play call, one of the best play calls of the night, and he actually called his own number on that one, and he broke it for, I think, about 11 yards to convert on the left side. So he wants to run, and he wants the ball in his hands to be able to throw it or be able to run it, and I think that's just, I mean, I give so much credit to that guy. I mean, he was a dog last night or yesterday. I mean, he wanted to take that game over. He didn't care what the score was, and I think you see it, and that's something he does when he utilizes his feet. I mean, it's exciting, gives everybody a ton of excitement. You want to follow a guy that's going to do every single thing like he does to be able to extend that drive.
Wide receiver Jeudy finished the game with 3 touchdowns, his first career 3-touchdown game, and head coach Nathaniel Hackett gives Jerry so much credit for what he was able to do out there.
When Cortland went down last week, we decided to make a move for our team to put him at the same position that Cortland was playing, at that backside X position, as we call it. And we still wanted to put him in the slot, so he kind of had to take even more of a role in the different positions that we wanted him. So he embraced it. I think he was really excited for it, and I think he took advantage of it. He had a couple opportunities to win some one-on-ones on the backside. Russ hit him. A beautiful throw that Russ had to Jerry was on a slant backside when he threaded it between 2 people. I thought it was a phenomenal throw and catch and route. So those are things that we're just going to have to keep looking at. And I think that him in that position and still being able to move around as much as we have, I think it's going to help him.
And with 4 games left in the season, Coach Hackett details his hope for the rest of the year.
For us, we're all professionals. I mean, we love this game. We love going out there and competing. We're all paid to come out there, on Sundays and compete. And I love this team. I love these guys. They go out there. They've been running with the best teams in the NFL and having a chance to win. They play for each other, and I think that's incredible. And that's what you want. That's what you want to build on. That's the foundation you want to have, that these guys play together. They always have a chance to win. Even if you're down 27-0, you're going to battle back. And I think those are all the great things that we can build on, that we can show. And we've got 4 games left, 4 more opportunities to compete. And that's all you can ask for. And that's the best part about this game, is to go out there and compete every Sunday.
And as we wrap up the top news of the day, let's take a look at today's injury updates. Running back Mike Boone left Sunday's game with an ankle injury. Coach Hackett said today that it doesn't look good for him to return this season with just 4 weeks left, but they're still evaluating everything. And wide receiver Kendall Hinton went out with a hamstring injury. They're also evaluating him, and they'll see what that looks like over the next couple days. Now joining me here inside the Broncos podcast studio for a game recap is, of course, Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla. Aric, thanks for joining me again on this Monday.
Of course, you got it.
I know the Broncos got, another loss yesterday versus the Chiefs, but it was a good game. There's a lot of positives to take off out of this game and build upon this week. So I kind of feel good this Monday.
Yeah, I mean, certainly better than it has felt a lot recently. It's kind of funny, Cindy, the Broncos still lost by 1 score. Mm-hmm. They still weren't able to close it out. But for whatever reason, 34-28 feels a lot better than 10-9. It feels a lot better than 12-9. I mean, I just think that's the nature of the NFL, that you want to see your team score points. You want to see your team be exciting. The defense made some big plays with 3 interceptions. Obviously, some big offensive plays. So you're right. It felt closer to what we thought this would look like when all of this started back in September. And so that's probably why, if you're us, if you're a Broncos fan out there right now, you're feeling a little bit more hope than you have probably in a couple months at this point.
Wow. Yep, for sure. Aric, let's look at the offense first. Russell, he threw for 247 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jeudy had his first career 3-touchdown game. Just overall, what did you like about their performance on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, they stuck with it, and they hit on big plays, and they were able to move the ball down the field. Third down percentage still wasn't great, but it was better. I think 35%. Jerry, let's start with him. He finally looked like that guy that you knew he could be when you drafted him in the first round out of Alabama, like that true number 1 receiver that's a threat anytime he's on the field. Actually, 3 touchdowns. He had 3 all seasons, and then goes and puts up 3 yesterday. 3 was his career high for an entire year. And so to have the game he did yesterday was remarkable. First Broncos receiver with 3 touchdowns in a game since Demaryius Thomas back in 2014. So a big kind of, I think, perception-altering game for Jerry Jeudy and what he could possibly be for this team.
For sure.
And then Russell Wilson, I mean, obviously his best game as a Bronco. It didn't look good early, but I think some of those drives, there was potential. They were moving the ball a little bit, had some first downs. A sack here or a missed assignment here was slowing them down a little bit. And of course, the pick 6 that put the Chiefs up 27-0, that was a tough one, but they respond. They score quickly twice before halftime. Then they come out of the half and do something they've only done once all year, which is score a touchdown in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And then just Sydney, 2 things from Russell. His toughness, obviously, just to take 6 sacks. And some of them he held the ball a little bit, but to keep battling. And on that third down, I think the Broncos are facing 2nd and 30, 2nd and 35.
Right.
And they're able to get a first down inside the 10-yard line because Russell's running and diving. And, that Brett Rippon quote where, hey, we're 3-9, they're 9-3, and this guy's still out here battling his ass off. You can tell what this means to Russell Wilson. You can tell what he means to his teammates. So that really impressed me, and just his running ability in general. Sydney, he was able to scramble around on that drive before the end of the first half, made some really big plays with his legs. This is the Russell Wilson that we thought we were going to get, and it's exciting moving forward.
Yeah. Aric, of course, we saw Russell take that really scary hit, at the beginning of the fourth there. He was ruled out with a concussion. He's in concussion protocol, moving forward. Obviously, hoping for the best for him, hoping he's feeling okay today, and, we'll continue to get better throughout the rest of the week. But what do you think happens, this week? And in regard to the concussion protocol, what can we expect?
Yeah, I mean, there's a NFL-mandated protocol that guys have to go through. And it's not up to Russell. It's not up to the team. There's a very specific protocol laid out. You have to follow it. You're not eligible to practice until you clear a certain step. You're not eligible, I think, to even be in the facility until you clear a certain step. So he's going to have to go through all of those steps. We'll see if he's available this week. If I were the Broncos, I would probably take a cautious approach here. At 3-10, it's not like you're in the mix for a playoff spot. Not that, in any circumstance you should rush a guy back from the concussion. That's what the protocols Therefore, but even if he is cleared, maybe it makes sense to give him another week. Obviously, the Broncos, you want to build off this momentum that you got yesterday against the Chiefs from an offensive standpoint, but Russell's long-term health has to be the number 1 goal.
Yeah. Aric, you mentioned earlier in the show just about the third quarter struggles this team has seen throughout the season, but I think this was just the second time so far this season that they were able to find the end zone in the third quarter with that Marlon Mack, 66-yard touchdown. What did you like about that play? And maybe what did you like about some of the second half, I don't want to say adjustments because they were rolling in, the end of the first half, but what did you like about how they were able to come out and continue that momentum?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you've got to do in this league is double up when you have the opportunity, and the Broncos scored. They called a timeout and tried to get the ball back. It looked like the Chiefs were going to be able to run out the first half, and they throw the pick. The Broncos score again. So now you're at a point where you come out of halftime. If you score, you've really made this a game. You can cut the lead to 6 points, and that's exactly what the Broncos were able to do. That particular call, I love that, the Chiefs had been aggressive. They've been sending corners on blitzes. They've been sending defensive backs. They've been bringing a lot of pressure. The Broncos used that aggressiveness against the Chiefs by calling a screenplay there. And then you got these big offensive linemen running down the field. They're going to be able to block corners. They've got that size advantage. Sure. Marlon Mack breaks one tackle, ends up in the end zone. Great play. And I really thought, I think the Broncos defense then forces 3 and outs on 2 consecutive possessions. Broncos had a chance there to take the lead, particularly near the end of the third quarter before the Chiefs pushed the lead back. The Broncos had a 1st and 10 out near the 40-yard line, and then Russ takes a sack for about 15 yards that he probably wishes he could have back. Just held the ball a little bit too long. But that, to me, felt like an opportunity where maybe you could grab the lead. And so still some room for improvement. We don't want to suggest here that everything's perfect. Obviously, you still lost the football game, but some things to build on.
Well, this is Patrick Mahomes, just his 3rd career 3-interception game. Josey Jewell had 2 of those. That was obviously Josey Jewell's first career interception, and then he gets 2 in one game. He's been having, a heck of a season. What have you really liked about, his contribution on defense the past few weeks?
Yeah, he's just consistent. He's a leader of this defense, calls the defensive plays out there when he's getting them in his headset. He's a guy that you can depend on, and he's a guy that obviously I think he's more athletic than people maybe give him credit for. Both of those plays, both of those interceptions were big-time plays where he had to dive back the other way. But him, Alex Singleton, they've been really impressive at inside linebacker, and obviously that was a concern coming into the year. What does that group look like? They've been really good, and, Josey, the one thing I admire about him is that after the game, he's probably excited about the interceptions a little bit more than he let on, but still said, hey, I'd rather beat these guys than have 2 interceptions, but the Broncos wouldn't have been even close to challenging the Chiefs if it weren't for those 2 plays that Josey made, and then a really impressive pick from Pat Surtain.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Obviously, also Pat Surtain's first interception of the season, and he said in the locker room afterwards he's glad to finally get that off his chest. Finally glad to get that one.
I know. It has been a long time coming, and good to see him get rewarded because he's been playing really well for 90-95% of this season. He's been among the league's best.
Yep. Well, Aric, as we know, it was going to be a tough challenge going up against, Patrick Mahomes and, the NFL's top scoring offense. This defense, they gave up 20 points, I think, on the Chiefs' first 4 possessions, and then only 7 after that. But it was the most points they've allowed all season. So kind of, I guess, what were your just main takeaways from the defense's overall performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think they figured things out as the game went on. You give up 2 field goal drives early, which is okay. And then obviously there's the big pass play to Jerick McKinnon. Yeah. Mahomes he makes a Patrick Mahomes play. Yeah, tosses it underhand. I think, unfortunately, you just have to live with that sometimes. This is how good this guy is. He's going to make plays that are essentially, you can't defend them. And so you've just got to kind of live with that. The last touchdown that put the Chiefs up 20-0, I think maybe you hope you're able to get a stop there. They drove essentially the length of the field, so that one was tough. Yeah. But they settled in, and they got those 3 interceptions. The Chiefs only scored 1 more touchdown. Mahomes completed a high percentage of his passes, but not for a lot of yards, and so the Broncos did a good job kind of holding them in check there. Ultimately, though, I'm sure there's a play here or there that they would have liked to have made. But I mean, I think Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid both said this after the game. When you turn the ball over 3 times, you're not going to win a lot of football games. And so the Broncos defense did do its part from that standpoint. And, you can't prove it. There's no way to prove it. But I believe that if Russell Wilson stays in that football game and is not injured, the Broncos have a really good chance of going down and scoring and at least making the Chiefs earn it there in the final minutes.
Well, Aric, this was the Broncos' 5th straight loss, but do you think maybe Sunday's performance gives this team maybe momentum or a little bit of optimism here in the final 4 weeks of the season?
Yeah, I mean, 2 things. And one, we'll have to see if Russell plays because that's going to determine a lot of if you can continue this momentum. Big fan of Brett Rippon, but I think the offense probably doesn't have that same explosive element with Brett like we saw back against the Jets earlier this season. So, can Russ get healthy and clear the protocol? And obviously you want to take the time that's needed for him to go through that. But, can you continue that offensive momentum? So that's one thing I want to see because you've got, 4 games left here, the Cardinals, the Chargers, the Rams, and in Kansas City, some of those games are very winnable. And so can you continue that momentum? Can you continue to score in the 20s? And that to me would suggest going into the offseason, hey, maybe we figured something out here where this is the offense we expected. This is why we brought Nathaniel Hackett here in terms of building this offense. Russ, this is what we expected when we traded for him. You know, those are the conversations I can imagine the Broncos having if you can turn things around here and continue this momentum. So that's one thing I'll look for. And then, you know, the rematch with the Chiefs is coming up here, you know, in just a few weeks. And so can you continue this momentum against them and say, hey, we're not just, you know, this wasn't just a one-time thing where we're putting up a little bit of a fight against you guys. We can really challenge the Chiefs and maybe end that streak. Exactly. And, you know, hopefully Russell's back by then at the very least. And so that's another kind of measuring stick game. But obviously attention's got to be first and foremost on Arizona.
Yep, for sure. And we'll see what happens this week. But Aric, appreciate your time and your insight always.
You got it, Sid.
Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now. Broncos Country, thanks so much for tuning in today and every day. I hope you meet me right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube tomorrow for another episode. I'll see you all then.